Over the years, horror movies have played a part in most people's lives. Be it scaring them so much that they never want to watch another, or pushing someone so close to the edge of their seat that they want to relive the experience again and again. One thing that is often overlooked, though, is how important horror has been in helping launch the careers of many a Hollywood A-list star. So let's take a look at some of the big-name stars who started out in small-time horror. Way back in 1955, a mutated tarantula was terrorising America in the movie Tarantula, when in swooped this guy to save the day. There's no mistaking those eyes. It's none other than Hollywood legend Clint Eastwood himself. But a giant tarantula isn't the only monster he dealt with that year, as he got to go up close and personal with the creature from the Black Lagoon in the sequel Revenge of the Creature. Jump forward to the 60s and we find an instantly recognisable face cropping up in no less than 3 Roger Corman movies. Long before he got to swing his axe against Shelley Duvall's bathroom door, we find Jack Nicholson in the original Little Shop of Horrors from 1960, and then 63's The Raven and also The Terror. Leap forward another decade and we find Indiana Solo himself, Harrison Ford, in 77's The Possessed. Luckily for him though, this movie was buried by another slightly bigger Ford film that year. 1980 was the year that Friday the 13th hit the theatres, and with it our first glimpse of this guy, Mr. Kevin Bacon. Also in the same year, a young-looking Tom Hanks appeared in He Knows You're Alone. The following year, long before she was famous for using an ice pick and flashing policemen, Sharon Stone appeared in Wes Craven's early slasher Deadly Blessing. And almost a decade before she had to deal with a spectral husband, Demi Moore saw herself up against Parasite in the 1982 movie of the same name from 80's master of nonsense, Charles Band. Not content with giving us Sharon Stone in 81, Wes Craven also introduced us to Johnny Depp in the 84 classic A Nightmare on Elm Street. Also that year, long before she worked with Ice-T, Mariska Hargitay found herself working with monsters from the toilet in Ghoulies, another Charles Band 80s offering. In 87, everyone's favourite ER doctor and nippled Batman, George Clooney, made his first appearance in Return to Horror High, while the following year he ended up facing off against none other than the Killer Tomatoes in the aptly named sequel Return of the Killer Tomatoes. 89 gave us Cutting Class, another high school slasher featuring future hunk Brad Pitt. He also featured an episode of Freddy's Nightmares the same year. And if we step briefly into the world of the Texas Chainsaw movies, we find ourselves confronted with none other than Viggo Mortensen playing one of the murderous family in Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw 3, released in 1990. And then in 94's Texas Chainsaw, The Next Generation, I kid you not, that's what it's called, out went Mortensen and in came Matthew McConaughey as one of the murderous clan. But he wasn't the only future star to appear in this movie, as one of his potential victims was none other than Bridget Jones herself, Renée Zellweger. They gave us a 2-for-1 with that film. Must have been Black Friday. If we drop back a few years to 91, future Titanic passenger and Wall Street whiz Leonardo DiCaprio can be found in Critters 3. Just like Ghoulies, this was yet another in the long line of Gremlins rip-offs. Remember Rachel from Friends? That's right, Jennifer Aniston. Well before she'd even heard of Ross, she found herself fighting off the advances of a lecherous leprechaun in the 93 movie of the same name. In 95, Mad Max Fury Road star Charlize Theron was up against Children of the Corn in Children of the Corn 3 Urban Harvest. Who thinks of these titles? 98 saw Joseph Gordon-Levitt avoiding the knife-wielding killer Michael Myers in Halloween H20 20 years later. Then 2 years later, in 2000, we find the future Lois Lane long before she ever shacked up with Superman, attending the Psycho Beach Party, a hybrid spoof of old surfer movies and slasher films. In 2002, we got Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson, facing off against Black Widows and other arachnids in the comedy horror Eight-Legged Freaks. 2008 saw Heimdall himself, Idris Elba, in the terrible remake of the not-so-good but not as bad as the remake 1980 flick Prom Night. And the last on our list is Heimdall's boss, Thor. Yes, Chris Hemsworth showed up a few years before he got himself a mighty hammer in 2012 horror Cabin in the Woods. Of course, these aren't the only stars to start out in horror, but if I were to list them all, this video would see you through to the new year. Don't forget, if you liked what you've seen, hit the subscribe button to ensure you don't miss out on future vids. And if you've got anything to add, just comment below. Till next time.